We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And welcome back to another episode of the California Golden Bearcast, a partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob. Alongside me, as always, is Andy. Andy, how are you doing on this Saturday without Cal football?
Don't expose my Saturday nights. Goodness. I'm doing great. How are you, Rob?
I didn't watch a single minute of college football today until you texted me right before we were recording and was like, can we record after the SC Utah game? And that's why I turned on the SC Utah game.
You are very welcome.
Yeah. But outside of that, it's been great. I've been able to catch up on other things, get some errands done. It was nice. I love having the bye week in the middle of the season. It kind of helps me recalibrate for the rest of the season with Cal football on Saturdays. And also get me ready for basketball season, which is on the horizon already.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, it's gonna be a busy few months. So it's like the perfect like little vacation week from my end. But how'd you spend your Saturday?
I spent it by watching several different college football games.
The exact opposite of me.
2 tennis matches, but it was great. And I'm now mentally preparing for USC. So everything I'm doing is now figuring out scheduling for next Saturday, and I love seeing SC lose. I think they've just gone back to being my number one enemy again, and that Utah game, chef's kiss, amazing.
Absolutely beautiful.
I feel bad for Shimon, but oh well, too bad. Y'all did to yourselves.
You brought this upon yourselves. Yeah, what a great week. What an absolutely great week. I mean, yesterday I was out at the Acalanes game, just filming. Spider-Man 2 comes out yesterday. The new Mario game comes out yesterday. I haven't been able to touch either of them, but man, what a great weekend so far. By the way, Trevor Rogers, Cal commit, 3 touchdowns last night. And Andy, I know you'll appreciate this. His last one, Makai Polk-esque in a tunnel screen from the slot.
Ooh.
How beautiful is that? Yeah, and he took it to the house. It was like a good, I need to look back at the yardage, but for my end, it looked like a good 70 yards.
How's Acalanes doing?
They are undefeated in conference play. They start off the season 0-3, which is out of conference. And then in league play, they are currently undefeated. They have 2 more games left before playoffs. They take on Atlas Lomas this upcoming Friday, which I unfortunately cannot be at. And then next Friday is their rivalry game at home against Campo.
Wow.
To cap off the season. That's going to be a fun one. If you've never been to like a high school football game or a local high school football game, I highly recommend you come out that Friday at Acalanes. It's a fun time. The vibes are different on Friday Night Lights.
How so?
I don't know. The energy just is different. Granted, it's like high school kids. I think it's a lot more personal, right? Because it's like your classmates, people that you're going to school with in a smaller high school setting.
Yeah.
All the people in attendance are either alumni or parents or teachers or, people that have to do with the school. And so, yeah, it's just it's, and the stadium's a lot closer, right? It's not huge. So
Yeah.
it feels more tight knit. You can
Makes
hear
total sense. I love that.
Yeah, just the vibes are nice. The vibes are nice. I just like being out there. Plus, I get field access. So I'm just like sitting on the grass during, in between quarters because they don't have TV timeouts, right? So these games go by quick. It's a 2-hour football game because there's, I think Akalani's beat Miramane last night 49-0, and the entire fourth quarter was a running clock outside of the ball going out of bounds or an injury.
Wow.
So yeah, these games go by quick.
I like that. I like that.
Cheap hot dogs, cheap popcorn. Support the kids.
All right. We have a hard enough time getting people to come to Cal home games, let alone Akalani's. All right. Let's talk about the Utah game.
Let's talk about it.
Do you want to do a run through of the stats?
Or are we going to do our normal vibe check?
Yeah, vibes were good. Vibes are good. If anyone, I don't know if anyone that was specifically listening to the podcast came to Doke Beer on Saturday, but there was a lot of people that were right for California / California Golden Blogs kind of long time followers, which was super, super cool. And just like great to see people coming up to Rob and to Avi and talking about following along for a long time and putting a face to the name. And just like, it was really cool to see all that. And, outside of a couple of, I'm not going to mention things that happened with our sound. It was great. It's a good vibe. And I think there's a core there that you can build on, but the product on the field really hurting that.
Yeah.
If Rico's just bounced it, just dipped. He was like, dude, enough. As soon as we missed that field goal, and so did my heart, really, if I'm being honest with myself. It's like that missed field goal was like, all right.
Yeah, that was do we have a little bit of hope? Can we put a little bit of pressure in Utah? And nope, we cannot.
That was the nope. That was you've seen this before.
Yep.
So I don't blame them at all, and I don't blame anybody else. I think I left early as well. I left with about 4 minutes left or something in the fourth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, the vibes are really good though, and I think I think a lot of people are looking at this SC game. It's the last time we're playing USC. Mm-hmm. I gotta imagine we're gonna put a good, hopefully like 35 to 40,000 people in the stadium, and I just get the sense from being around some other Cal people today that it's like this one means a lot, and you want to win the last one. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think about the vibes, Rob?
I mean, Doke Beer is always a good time. We had a blast. I got there way too early, but I did enjoy my nice omelet from the Oakland Grill. The weather was great. Everyone was having a good time. The games might suck, but the group of guys that we watch games with and have started to have watched games with over the last, I don't know how many years now is it, Andy? They're fun. It's a good group to watch a game with because no one's down in the dumpsters about it. Everyone's laughing, having a good time, regardless of what the score is and so on. In
some ways, I think that is super true, and it's a great thing. It's almost a healthy way of looking at college football. Because someone was asking me, who was it? They were asking me if a game really ruins my day. And I thought to myself, and I was like, well, losses really used to ruin my day. The Niners game last week definitely put a downer on my day.
Yeah.
But has a Cal game ruined my day? And I was just like, it has not in a couple of years. I don't think it's really ruined my day. And that's actually kind of sad.
Yeah, we're losing our youth, Andy. That's what it is.
Well, is it our youth or is it we have become so accustomed to losing?
Is it both? It could be
I think
both.
it's more that we've just become accustomed to losing. I don't think my passion for the program has changed. I mean, I guess it has because of, life progressing on and having a baby and the things that have distracted me from from it because you can't really afford to sulk or lounge around all day. Like
You're also
when
not
you
on
have a
social
newborn.
media anymore, so you're not interacting with the immediate like repercussions of a loss.
Oh, good point. Yeah, very true.
Right,
I don't
you're
have to
not-
sit there and just like
yeah, it's not an echo
read
chamber.
through
Yeah.
so many different tweets of this and that.
Yeah.
I read it. I read this Right for California stuff though, and I see the comments and the same people making the same comments, and I read all that. But yeah, I don't commiserate as long as I used to. I used to really feel like I needed an outlet for my disappointment after we would lose a game. I distinctly remember that. And you go in, and I was watching the Oregon-Washington game after the Cal game, which was just an amazing football game. And I guess we're just gonna meander here.
We are.
But there were a couple of things. One, I missed caring about a game the way that I could see, you could just feel the passion. You felt how much that game mattered. Not only because it was the biggest rivalry game, Oregon and Washington hate each other, but then on top of it, you have playoff implications. I don't think they've ever played a game ranked that highly before.
Yeah.
And you just felt all of, and the funny thing about it too is because as an outsider, I was trying to tell when they missed the kick, I was trying to tell my Oregon fans that are friends of mine, even though they're all kind of like have made me dislike Oregon. But I was trying to tell a few of them that like I don't really see this negatively impacting them other than outside of their chances to win the Pac-12. And I think Washington will, I mean, it's the Pac-12, dude. Like everyone's like, oh, the Pac-12 is so good. Like Washington's going to lose a game. This is what we do. This is what we do. We do not put a team into the 4-team playoff. It's just what we do. So they'll lose a game. And I don't know, if Oregon will have the chance to sneak into the Pac-12 championship in that scenario, but it really doesn't change much for me. And I think if Washington went on to go and win the Pac-12, let's say they didn't lose a game and Oregon had a 1-loss resume, I think in this Pac-12, albeit looking a little weaker now that USC has a couple of losses to its name, I didn't see that they had that much risk. I felt like in this scenario, it was kind of a win-win. But at the same time, I could acknowledge the fact of how you could feel how much they wanted to win it. And then, going back to my original point, I have felt like I haven't felt like that in 3 or 4 years. Other than the big game. The big game, I always want to win that way. And I do think the big game, maybe that's the last one that ruined my day. The one where we had the extra point blocked.
In 2020 in COVID when you had to watch at home.
Yeah. The blocked extra point in the game that we clearly should have won. Was clear as day. Handed that game away.
Well,
Blocked extra point.
2 kicks blocked on the same stand or on the same style of defense.
I get ruined. That one ruined my day. But yeah, it's been a while. I don't know, Rob. How do you feel about that?
I mean, there's not a lot I can argue against that. I think it's just it's going to take a little self-reflection of like what percentage of it is me growing up and kind of refusing to let a loss like sour my mental health for an entire day or an entire week. But also, yeah, maybe there is a part of it where it's just so many losses that you've become numb to it and you've compartmentalized it. I'm trying to figure out like the opposite of that, right? Like has there been a game in the last, let's say just under the Wilcox tenure of a win that has carried and like upped my mood and mental health for like more than 24 hours? I can't really think of one. I think the last one maybe that I could think of.
What were the parameters?
So, like, it's the exact opposite of what we're talking about, right? Like, how we're talking about a loss that like ruins more than just your day.
But yeah, in Wilcox tenure,
I mean, the big game, right? Winning the big game in 19, right? Reclaiming the
2019
axe.
big game.
Yeah.
Whenever the hell that Washington State game was.
That's what I was about to say. I think that's the last one for me, is if I wanted to go a little bit further back, was that Friday night game. 2017? It was 2017.
There was a world in which I could see going back and like tracking Wilcox. The thing is, dude, with Wilcox, to your point, those wins feel distant now.
They are.
That's why this game just really pissed me off, because we used to come in, and this goes back to what I was talking about with Oregon, and this goes back to what I was talking about in the last couple of podcasts. I don't think our defense is the defense that used like of old, where we could go in and smack people in the mouth. And even today, when I'm watching these games, I just see, I see teams and defenses that make plays that look way different than ours. And it's so weird to me that it seems like Wilcox has to play this game of whack-a-mole where it's like the offense looks different than everybody else's in college football besides Iowa. So we get to go fix it.
Yep.
And he goes and fixes it. And then it's the defense. And I'm starting to wonder myself, it doesn't do me any good to think this way, but I'm starting to be like, are we not being honest enough with ourselves in the offseason as a coaching staff when we're evaluating what we have? And then is it taking us too long to form an opinion on what isn't working, and we're adjusting super late to it? Is that part of the culture of not firing anyone? Is that you're very reluctant to see what's in front of you? They talk about like this practice of what are your sacred cows? What are these things that have been mainstays in what you do? And can you go and, it's a little graphic, but can you go and kill some of those sacred cows? Right? Because they shouldn't be sacred. I think another way of looking at it is like, how can you disrupt yourself? I heard the founder or the CEO of Fanatics, not really sure if I'm a huge fan of the guy because of your experiences, Rob. I was explaining that to Diana. But he said the same thing. He said that I'd rather disrupt myself than be disrupted by somebody else. I was like, okay, interesting point. And my question to you is, are we disrupting? Are we thinking enough? And specifically, is Wilcox thinking enough about things that could disrupt his program and their success? Or do you feel like he is maybe on the other side, slightly too comfortable? Or neither of those? Doesn't have to be either. Those are just suggestions.
Dude, that's a $1 million question. Like, that's something we would need to like sit down with like a sitting head coach and talk about that. Because like, look, you and I have both played somewhat of organized sports and have been around even like a lot of these Cal coaches, in those pressers and whatnot. Like, there's a part of them that people don't understand of how competitive they are to a degree that we can't even fathom, right? And so the point I'm trying to make here is like, there are coaches that are fully leaned into, I'm going to adapt and change my mantra of how I approach this sport as long as I win. That's all that matters to me, purely the winning. And some would say that's probably the type of head coach you want. But that's also you're selling your values at that point. And then you have the flip side of that, where there are coaches that are, I am going to play football or coach basketball or coach whatever sport the way that I want it to be played, and I will not give up an inch on that. And that's like the opposite end of that spectrum, right? And so you have coaches that have been like that. We can name a bunch.
Yeah.
And then personally, I want someone who's kind of in the middle, that's willing to change and adapt with the times, but also is unwilling to change and just purely adapt and sell out for the win. And so I don't know where Wilcox is right now because we're not in those off-season meetings and we're not in those like self-scouting at the end of the season meetings and decision-making meetings. But the record as it stands right now leans into a bit more of the I'm going to stand by what I do and how I want it to play versus like I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. I don't think he's like 100% on that side either. I think if I were to give it like a percentage split, I think it's like 70-30. just seeing that he's made changes and he's like adapting to like what he thinks would get us the wins. And to your point, exactly, are those changes maybe coming a bit too late? And if we're purely looking at maybe coaching change decisions, they definitely look like they are.
Yeah, they definitely seem like it's too late, and he keeps getting surprised by what the results are in season because there's confidence in the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about Musgrave last year, and I think about when we had Jack Plummer, there was so much confidence coming out of camp. And there was so much that I was reading or I was hearing about Wilcox. You could tell that Wilcox has that offense he likes. He has a quarterback he likes. And then he discovers as the season plays out that it's not materializing the way that he had envisioned it. And then, but I don't know. I mean, you can play the devil's advocate and say, yeah, like, of course, everybody knew that. And then I think the flip side of it is, I don't know. Like, it's easy for us to be armchair and say, yeah, it was super obvious, but that's the benefit of being outside of the program.
Yeah, hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize that enough. When you're going through it, I mean, we were talking about this super relevant with Utah was my experience working underneath Andy Ludwig, underneath Tedford with the program. And I was talking about how Ludwig just did not vibe at all with, and the offense didn't work, and it was a constant frustration, and Tedford and Ludwig didn't necessarily always see eye to eye. And then he goes to Utah and he's had a ton of success. So it's not always easy to see what is and isn't working and why it is or is not working. I think that was last year. And I also think like the Giants went through it with Kapler this year, where he was saying, you know, if it was one thing, we would solve the one thing and then we would be better. It's not one thing. I think Wilcox, I distinctly remember him saying that. If it was one thing, yeah, we would just change that one thing and be better. But it's often not. The thing that I cannot wrap my head around is because Wilcox really checks the boxes for me as a competitor, as a person, as a coach off the field. But I keep seeing things that other people are calling out ahead of time. And this just so happens to be on the defense. And this one I think I can be a little bit more lax on than the offense. For it was very obvious that Musgrave wasn't going to be the right pick. And it was probably pretty obvious from 2020 on. And we gave him a longer leash than that. So be it. But with Sermon, it was already questionable. It potentially had Gerald Alexander leave because of favoritism. I'm reading in a lot to that, but right, there's like underlying impact of that. You also lose TDR, who I think was always going to leave. I mean, if you look at the resume, the guy's 2 years everywhere. 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. So it's like, can't totally say that the assistant or co-defensive coordinator and then turning him to assistant head coach and all of that was the reason that he jumped to Oregon. But it's hard not to look at Sermon and you did get that blip. And you have that run of success. What was it, 21, right? Defense was top 35. Am I right on that, Rob?
I think you're right. I mean, of course, our best defense was 2018, but
oh yeah, of course. No, I'm not saying the best.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
If I'm trying to think about this from an evaluation mindset.
Yeah, you set the benchmark with that 2021 defense,
and so you hit 21, and it really wasn't, if I remember correctly, the beginning as much it was. We had a very strong end, but it was not. It wasn't the 2018 or the 2019 Cal defense where I think you could feel that we would go in, we could go shut people down. We'd be like, hey, SC, we know you're going to do this. This is your tendency, air raid. we're going to shut that down. You're going to have to beat us a different way. We know how to do that. I feel like that was the early Wilcox TDR defenses.
Yeah.
You have tendencies. We know what you're going to do. We're going to build a bunch of disguises, different looks, throw a lot of pressure your way, and we're going to force you off of your game. And if you can win off of your game, then hats off to you. But we're going to do it. And now this defense, I think we talked about this, is very bend not break. It's like it's what the Niners did against the Browns. It's like, all right. I think I keep coming back to these comparisons. I think this is perfect. You look at people's frustrations with Steve Wilks' performance, and it sounds ridiculous because we held the Browns, like sub 20? You should win those games in the NFL.
Yeah.
I get it, right? People are always having too big of a reaction to think. I think Wilks is great, but what did people like about DeMeco Ryans? Well, DeMeco Ryans' defense was always creating havoc in the backfield. Always. And you saw it with Nick Bosa. You saw it with Eric Armstead, and it was the same way with Robert Saleh. And it's not as much of that with Steve Wilks, whether it's player personnel, whatever. They're trying to adjust, and we'll see what that book's going to be at the end of the season. But it does strike me as a lot of what I liked with our defense with TDR was havoc in the backfield. And now I feel like we have none of that. And it's not even I feel. I know we have none of that. We have no sacks in Pac-12 play. I think that is as damning of a statement as any. How could we possibly go and force somebody out of their tendencies or their game plan if we cannot put pressure on the quarterback? The only way we can do it is if we have the best fucking defenders in the world in the secondary. And I think our secondary's been pretty damn good. Like, Lou's been burned a couple of times, but outside of that, I think we actually have really good defensive backs. But we're asking way too much of them. Way too much. And we have nothing that is giving us the ability to change a game defensively unless one of our DBs makes an amazing play. I think the one game I'm thinking of is where we had a little bit more of that pressure. It didn't materialize in a sack, was Arizona State. And then that ended up being, the big play in the secondary that came out of that. But I'll say one last thing, Rob, and then I just want to hear your thoughts here. We talk a lot about turnovers, and this defense in the first few weeks had a lot of turnovers. And you and I both were somewhat unsettled by that because we felt that you can't control as much. Like, turnovers have some aspect of luck involved. Right place, right time, good bounce, bad bounce, whatever it is. I personally think a turnover is a result of good things that you did well, but there's also just inherent luck that happens, or like good fortune that happens in order to create that opportunity. It's not that you can't create it. It's not that you can't manifest it. Just that you have luck in that. What can you have 100% control over that? Like, I think you legitimately could say, if you win in the trenches, you have complete control over whether or not you win in the trenches.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Like player to player, scheme to scheme, you have the ability to out scheme and outplay. And you don't need luck to favor you there. It can help, but you don't need it to favor you. So to me, that's your biggest controllable on defense, is whether or not I can control time. That's it. If I can control time, the time that the quarterback has with the ball to make a decision, whether he hands it off, whether he throws it, what type of progressions he gets into, how far, the receivers are, like all of it. You have the ability to control time. That's the only place I really think that you can actually, on defense, have that level of control. And we have none of it. So it's driving me bananas. There's a lot there. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
You're handing me the soapbox after you got up to say that in front of everyone. Dude, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, man. And where to even begin? I mean, let's start at the top. And I don't want to talk the whole time. I want you to be like, commenting and saying reacting as I talk to. Okay, so because this is a conversation. Let's look at the facts, right? Fact is, okay. First off, we got to start with like a big picture thing. Avi and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember if I mentioned it on the pod or not, or if I was just talking to you about it and I mentioned it. But one of the big things is that this all comes down to recruitment and development, right, of players, because a lot of that can mask some of your coaching mistakes or decisions that you go with. But that's what it purely falls down to, particularly in collegiate athletics. The issue here is, like, we can go with the offense for a second. Like, the offense's inability to recruit athletes is starting to show now, that we're having to take gambles on guys like Brian Hightower, on guys like Taj Davis, who I think Taj had a great game at Utah. Except for that one drop, that touchdown pass from Mendoza, I think that route was ran perfectly. And there's a couple other routes that he ran just to perfection. But that one down the sideline that he dropped, like, just that one really hurt. That's a little side note there. But you're seeing now, and this is what Avi said, was you're seeing now the effect of not recruiting guys and developing them and keeping them for a while, or in other words, not striking gold on guys that you've recruited in. And that's basically what we're seeing now. And I think defensively, that's been the case for a few years now. Like Hifliday, who writes and is the editor for Addicted to Quack, the Oregon site. He always used to say Cal's defense, and he's one of the, like, I think one of the best Pac-12 analysts, like, for football. Like, he watches so much tape, it's ridiculous. Probably the only person that compares is Christopher H. on Right for California. But, like, the thing that he said was Cal's best defense was when they had a nose guard that could eat up offensive linemen. Notably, the guy that was the dude in 2018 was Chris Palmer. And ever since Chris Palmer's graduation, Cal has not been able to replicate that defense because they don't have a guy that anchors that middle of the line, that allows guys like Cam Good that allows guys like Alex Funches, just to be able to run havoc on the edges. That's the issue with our pass rush is like Brett Johnson's back and he's playing there with Ricky Correa, right? Like edge/nose, if we go with an even front. And you see Brett eat up like double teams or sometimes even triple teams. But the guys on the outside just aren't winning those one-on-ones. And like that's also because, once again, it seems like, of course, transfer portal and NIL has like a big influence on how this is transitioned over the last 3 years. But the big thing there is we're not hitting or getting the guys that we want in from the get-go, right? Like Carlton has come in after 1 year at Utah and we wanted him here, right? When he was a freshman. But like I love Carlton, but like they're all, I mean, we don't know the reasons why, right? But there has to be a reason like Utah was okay with him leaving. Like, and not breaking into that defense. And that defense hasn't lost a beat. Like there's just a lot there on that defensive line and the linebackers that like we never honestly, like let's look back at even the linebackers, right? Like our best linebacking tandem of JK and Evan Weaver. We didn't really replace JK until probably Sermon, and we probably didn't replace Evan Weaver until Elar Zor. Sorry, did I say Jacob Sermon? I meant Jackson Sermon. So like we're not getting the guys like to kind of reload on the defensive end. We're having to play this like, okay, we didn't get this guy, but can this guy suffice? Or like, can we take, like, dude, our just look at our edges, right? Like last year, or was it 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago already. Good Lord. Like Marquez Bimage was our best edge.
Yeah.
And he was a grad transfer from Texas that we happened upon. And just like he was thrust into the starting lineup and became a really good pass rusher for us for one season. Like, and we expect that to happen all the time. Like we did that this year with David Reese. And it just hasn't produced anything outside of the Auburn game. Like, I don't know how many times we're going to be able to like try and with those gambles, but like you can't keep taking those gambles if you're not developing the foundation to begin with. And that's the issue I have right now with the roster. Like a lot of these guys are great. And I love the roster as it is, but like talent and like production wise, none of like, can we rationally look at any of those transfer portal guys that we've brought in and be like, that guy has been a difference maker. That guy has been a difference maker. That guy has been a difference maker. Like, I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can identify any of those guys to be like, that's like that's the jewel of the transfer portal class. Like a lot of these have just been gambles instead of surefire guys to come in and play.
Ifanse is the jewel of the class.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's definitely one. But even him, like he's here for 1 year.
I agree.
Like he's out after this year, right? It was more of an insurance policy on bringing in some guys because so many guys were injured, right? Because remember, Ifanse was at San Jose State just this spring. Like he transferred from Montana to San Jose, and before he played a game at San Jose, he came to us. So like that's where my frustrations start to lie, is just the talent evaluation, the talent recruitment, and the talent development just doesn't seem to be there, particularly on the defensive side over the last 4 years.
I mean, to me, it's, I don't know. There's like the piece that you guys come back to on recruiting. I find it to be interesting because I think Utah is the counterexample in regards to needing to get top level talent in order to staff a good team, right?
True.
I just don't think stars matter. I think your point is, both of your points is that development matters.
Well, I mean,
that's-
look, just one addendum before you continue. But you could also can't you also argue that the reason Utah is developing those guys is because they're identifying the guys they want to bring in, not necessarily stars,
right? Yeah,
but the
100%.
guys that they want to develop at their program.
Yeah, I agree. I think yes, you basically have, let's just say, the Utah footprint or whatever, right? Value set or whatever it is, and they're going out and they're identifying who would fit into their program exceptionally well, and then closing. So I think to your point, when you have those targets, you have to convert them. And then what you can't do is have to fall back on your second or your third or your fourth option and then say, it's our fourth option, right? It's like, there's a reason it was our fourth option. You really got to close your top one or two. I think that's valid. And then I think it's a development piece where, I just want to use this game as an example. So I'm just going to rattle off our top, I don't know. Let's go with top 5 to start. Top 5 in tackles for the Utah Cal game.
Yep.
Matthew Littlejohn, Cade, Uluave, Patrick McMorris, Noel Williams, Xavier Carlton.
Yep.
One member of our defensive line participated in that top 5. 3 out of the 5 are defensive backs. The next after that's Craig Woodson. So that makes 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6.
Craig, no, it's Caleb.
I'm sorry, what?
It's Caleb. Caleb's next on the list. Caleb had 6 total tackles. Woodson had 6. Or Caleb had 7 total tackles. Craig had 6. Sorry.
ESPN is telling me 6 and 6.
That's 7 and 6 in the record book. So whatever. But yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever, ESPN. Thanks for nothing.
Yes.
Regardless, it just tells you how the game went. We don't really have to watch tape to understand, okay, how did the game go? And it's like, okay.
Well, I mean, to add to your point too, it's in a game where Utah rushed 53 times and only passed 22.
And we have,
And our DBs.
What do we have?
And our DBs.
2 tackles for loss?
Yeah.
2? Like 2. We have literally 2. And it's just, there's nothing happening with the D-line. And it's not that, like, there are plays where we're getting pressure, but we're just not converting those plays. We're hitting guys in the backfield and not tackling. And, I mean, dude, you just can't win football games that way. In years past, I felt like we could compete with any team, and we always had a chance to beat any team. And I have lost that confidence because we just don't look defensively that capable of doing what you need to do to upset a top 20 team on the road. Or even though USC is going to come into this game at home, or on the road against us, battered and bruised, and their poor little egos not making the playoffs are going to be struggling. It's really hard for me to say, as much as I would love for Cal to win this game, that we can, because when I look at our team, at the end of the day, who's going to win the matchup between Cal's defense and USC's offense? It's not that I don't trust our offense to score against their defense. I think we're perfectly capable of putting up 35 points. Unfortunately for us, I think that they're more than capable of putting up 50 on our defense. And when I'm watching these, you watch other teams play and you just realize, like, our games don't look the same. Our defense doesn't look the same. We're not like what Dan Lanning is doing on defense and the stops that happened in that Washington game, or the little bit of the Oregon game that I watched today against Washington State. Night and day.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how it happened so fast, nor do I really understand why this was the year. Because I do feel like, to your point, we brought in a lot of talent. Whether we missed on that talent could be could be a valid question. Maybe we missed on some guys. Maybe the portal, we need more time to coach them up. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just weird because Wilcox came into a team that was Sonny Dykes' defense, full of 2 and 3 stars, and turned them into fucking all-stars. And now We're pulling in guys that are 3 and 4 stars, and this is one of the worst defenses I've seen in his tenure. I'm at a loss for words.
Look, to answer your thing about Oregon to start, it harkens back to my point, recruiting. I think Oregon's never stopped recruiting since the Cristobal era, and they've continued that trend. So there's that. Just watching that Oregon Washington game, it's like the athletic and talent difference is so big. And here's the crazy part, like that I was talking to Avi about.
Is
like,
it though, Rob? Is it? Are our athletes all that different? If Utah's going to go and keep doing what Utah's doing, that's the thing. As long as Utah exists, the counterexample exists.
I mean, but that's. Look, I think Utah is identifying the right athletes for what they want to do, right? And I think the athletes that they're bringing in to that football team is on that level of what Oregon and them are doing. Like, I'm not talking about stars. I'm just talking about just on the field, like talent, right? Like, just Oregon and Washington just look like they're on a different playing like field, different universe.
It's crazy that Utah, I think this was in the 2023 class was the first time that Utah had ever had a recruiting class in the top 25. Ever. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't know what their schedule looks like for the rest of the year. I do wonder, do they play Oregon or Washington? I'll look it up right now.
Great question.
Yeah. I think
look, if Rising is, you know what I mean? It's like, if Rising's out still.
Oh, God. Yeah. They play Oregon next week, and then they play Washington 2 weeks. So that'll be the test.
But will it be the test? They still don't have a starting quarterback. I mean, dude, the fact that they're like winning these games, the fact that they're 5-1 and they lost their starting quarterback, you're right. They have an identity. They know what it is. They recruit like hell for it, and they close.
I mean, but you also have to look at like how they've won, right? Like this feels like the Utah team feels like the exact opposite of us a few years ago, where it's like, look, they won their first game against Florida, and the Florida looked bad, 24-11. Then they beat Baylor at Baylor by 1 touchdown. Then they beat Weber State 31-7. Then they're at home against UCLA, and they beat them by 1 touchdown, it's 14-7. Then they go to Oregon State and lose by two touchdowns, 21-7. Then our game, and they beat us by 20. And then they play SC, and they win by 2. Like these, they're not winning. Like, but the coin flip games are all going their way right now, which is why I'm saying like the Oregon and Washington game are going to be a little bit more interesting to see if they keep it close or if they just get run out of the stadium, because they're easily the most complete teams that they'll have played on their schedule so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I think that what Utah does well is it would be great. So next week we'll see how it happens with Oregon. But if I come in and I'm an SC, I know what I want to do, and I know I have a pretty bad defense, a defense that's not performing well, and then I have an elite offense. But Utah just comes in every single year. What do? They make USC play Utah football. It's amazing. And I just felt like we used to do that. We'd be like, hey, that's cool that you're ranked top 15, Washington State, with your fun little Mike Leach offense. Guess what? We're going to make you play Cal football, and we'll make you play that grinded out game. We did that last year a lot. I think we had that. I just don't think we haven't been able to make people play our game other than Auburn, in which we played, unfortunately, super poorly offensively.
I mean, here's the other point I want to make on this is like this also feels like, and we're talking about the Pac-12 conference as a whole, right? This feels like one of those years, and we all talk about, even the national talking heads talk about it, like how this is probably the most like competitive conference in the country, with probably 6 or 7 of the best quarterbacks in the country. Like, this was a year where the Pac-12 took a massive jump forward as a whole. Some teams went from like a B- B to an A+. Some teams went from a C all the way up to like an A-. And there are some teams that went from like a D to like a B-. But like even then, like some of those jumps weren't enough because so many teams made that jump into that A or S rank. And that's kind of how I feel like what happened with us is like, yeah, we might have improved, and we probably do look better as a team in probably any other conference year. But this year within the Pac-12, there are just so many better teams than us. Like, just more complete teams. Like, and it absolutely sucks. Absolutely sucks.
I don't find myself thinking about this season as if the league got so much better that we just couldn't hang with it, though. I think you're right, and that going to the ACC will be in more football games naturally by not playing this gauntlet of a schedule that we've had to play. But I also don't find myself thinking that the league got that much better and we sort of got a little bit better. It's not wrong, though. I mean, and I'm not trying to say it's wrong.
I mean, the biggest thing for us that's different from every other Pac-12 team, in my opinion, we just don't have a quarterback. We genuinely just do not have a quarterback that's playing up to par, or like a quarterback that we're looking at going, okay, we're playing him because we're building towards the future.
Man, Jack Plummer, dude, sitting right here.
We just don't have it.
We lost. So this game, what was it? 24-14. We're driving downfield.
Yep.
And then
Mendoza hits, or after the Mendoza touchdown in the third quarter, we're within 10, and then we're driving down. And then you're going to talk about what, the missed field goal?
Yeah, Mendoza gets hurt. Then we have Finley come in.
Finley comes in for a little
bit.
Yeah.
And then Mendoza comes back in. We're forced to a field goal. We miss the field goal. And then we give up the 80-yard touchdown to a safety that's playing running back.
Yeah, who still played running back even today against SC and was really, really good.
True. But it felt so familiar in some ways. See, to me, that doesn't seem like it's a different Pac-12, or that we're I didn't feel like we lost to a revamped or retooled or different Utah team. I felt like we lost the same way that we've been losing.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor. Grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
We don't win in the trenches. You're right. We have inconsistent play at quarterback, but signs of life with Fernando Mendoza. A more interesting offense, but we lose in the trenches, and we give up. We do something dumb on special teams, like miss a field goal. and we give up an 80-yard touchdown with the following play right after. Call me crazy, but that feels like the last 10 years. Like, is that the life of a Cal fan? Certainly seems like mine.
It probably is. I
just don't know, man. Like, I don't think I see the Pac-12. I'm not like, oh yeah, this is a totally different Utah team, or like, I think that, like, yeah, Oregon State is very different than the Oregon State of old, but like, they're still consistent with who they have been under Jonathan Smith. And I think the two teams I could say are vastly different are Washington and Oregon. Like, they just don't look the same. Like, they've clearly step level improvement, right? Really, you see it. To your point, you see the athleticism on the field. But besides that, I don't know. Like, that's why this game was winnable. That's why this game, like, that's why I think on the Utah podcast, there was legitimate fear from them when they were coming in.
Yep.
They say, oh, it's a Wilcox defense. We haven't been able to perform on offense. History tells me that this is going to be a tough game for us to win. And it wasn't. And so that's where I sort of lose. I just can't make sense of it, because to me, this was one of those games that when people asked me, I said, yeah, I think we can win this game. Like, this was a game. I know that might sound crazy, but I thought it was winnable. If you give me the classic Wilcox defense that can come in and force somebody out of what they want to do. It was very clear. Nick said it. Everyone in the Doke Beer said it. They're clearly going to run the ball. We knew they were going to run. And what did they do? They did it anyways. We could not get them out from what they wanted to do. And then eventually their passing game started to be good enough to the point where it was like, oh shit. Now we don't really know what to do, because they have shown their ability to pass somewhat. But I don't know. I feel like we could have come in that game and like, all right, you're going to run every time? Cool. We're going to be ready for it. And we're going to force you out from your tendencies. And then we're going to force you to beat us through the air. And that would also play into a strength of ours with our defensive back talent. And we just don't do it. And then I'm over here with my hands up, like, I don't understand. That's what I'm saying. It's like freaking whack-a-mole over here. The offense doesn't work. Special teams doesn't work. The defense doesn't work. Why can't you all just function as one group for one season and like happen? That's it.
It's not how sports works. That's not how Cal fandom works. It's like, I get that it's, I'm totally with you that it's maddening. Like, it's just like Christopher H said it best in the Right for Cal Discord. He said, I can't remember what game this was after. I think it was after Utah, but he basically said, I wish we didn't score 58 on North Texas. And I'm kind of on board with that.
Oh, dude, I thought of the same thing, man. When we were talking about Auburn earlier, I was like, thank fucking goodness we lost against Auburn. Seriously. You know, when you're talking about, oh yeah, we lost fans because of the Auburn game, we lost it. Thank goodness we lost that game. Could you imagine if we had won that game?
Can you imagine if we're going 3-0 and then we go to Washington, we get slapped 59-32?
Right.
It's a different thing. I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I think a lot of what you're seeing is right. The only pushback I'll give is like, so far in Pac-12 play, which we've only played 4 games, like the one we won, right? Arizona State. We were clearly the better team from top to bottom. But we barely won that by 3 because we were still struggling from the quarterback spot, but they were struggling at the quarterback spot just as much. The other Utah game, somewhat similar, except their quarterback outplayed our freshman quarterback, who was having his first road game at probably one of the hardest stadiums to play in the Pac-12. And then the other 2 games, their quarterbacks just were really good. Like, DJ it's clear why he was a former 5-star and why he played at Clemson. Like, there were some throws that DJ made against Oregon State or at for Oregon State that were just, I don't know how that's just it's tip of the cap.
By the way, because you brought it up, Arizona State 7, Washington 3. 14 minutes left in the third quarter. Pac-12 After Dark.
Pac-12 After Dark. Oh, good God. Yeah, and I have the UCLA Stanford game up right now, and it's UCLA 21, Stanford 0 with 11:28 to go in the third. So, and they're playing in Stanford. Would you look at that?
Would you look at that?
Would you look at that?
So, I mean, your point is made about the quarterback competition, the quality of quarterbacks that are out there. You're spot on.
Like the close games and the winnable games were against teams that are questionable at quarterback. Right?
Dude, exactly. But like
The
going
other
back to my
two-
previous point, you have control over that. In my opinion, like I don't know. I guess this comes to the bigger debate, but let's use Caleb Williams because I know. So the second great debate of the season. The mantra that Rob and I have talked about is this idea that a good offense or a great offense beats a great defense.
No. Good offense always beats great defense. That's the cliche line.
Okay, thank you. And I don't necessarily agree with that. And so I want to go to the Notre Dame game. I watched that game last week.
Yep, the SC Notre Dame game. Yeah.
Caleb, I mean, what more do you want? He's hella old. He's the Heisman winner. He's been with Lincoln Riley forever. I mean, you cannot talk about a more prepared person, athlete, to go up against a great defense. But Notre Dame forced
Continue.
him to
Yes.
play a different brand of football. They put a ton of pressure on him and they forced him out of his tendencies. So this is what I'm saying. It's like you go up. If you had the Cal 2018 defense or 2019 defense, take your pick. I don't care if we're playing Michael Penix every single week because I know that we can do some disguises in the secondary that will make him uneasy. I know that we can do things. We have control over our outcome based on the things that we can do. And if you have a defensive line that can, or just a scheme that is aggressive about putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, the Giants tried to do it against Brock Purdy, and it didn't work. And then the Browns effectively did the Niners defense against Brock Purdy, and it worked pretty damn well. Like, there's ways that you can solve this when it comes down to just like one player. It's not the easiest task. And we are talking, if you are so good at doing that, where you could literally take every single offense and solve it, then Justin Wilcox probably wouldn't be coaching Cal. But what I don't understand is why we have to get boat raced by all of them. That's my big thing. Is like, just because you have a good quarterback, does that mean I should be expecting an L? In which case, like, we need to adjust our USC expectations.
Well, okay. Here's my rebuttal to some of that. First of all, Andy is calling a 21-year-old in college football old.
Damn, he's younger than I thought.
Yeah. Do you not remember Stetson Bennett? Like that's old.
How old is Bo Nix? Like 25?
24? Right?
Caleb's only 21?
Caleb's only 21. He's played since his true freshman year, and he hasn't stopped playing. Yeah, Bo Nix is 23.
Okay, fine. Bo Nix, you're hella old. Bo Nix was born in 2000. Oh, the real truth
That
here.
makes you and me old.
I am very old. Whoa. All right, I have one more. You'll never believe this. Okay, actually, how should I frame this? Can you take a shot in the dark guess at one collegiate quarterback that is older than Bo Nix and 1 year younger than Justin Herbert?
Justin Herbert's probably what? So basically, you're looking at like either a 24 or 25-year-old quarterback. Shot in the dark here is Keaton Slovis.
Ooh, I don't know about Keaton.
Because
Not the one.
Keaton's been in the league. Keaton's been playing college football for a while now too.
22.
Keaton Slovis is only 22.
Yep.
Oh my god! All right. Yeah, then I don't know.
Sam Hartman is 24 years old.
You're right.
I mean, he looks 40.
Yeah, he's. It's the beard. It's the beard.
He is 1 year younger than Justin Herbert. And Stetson Bennett is
26.
25.
25.
Same age
Yeah.
as Herbert. Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole different subject of things
yeah.
that don't make sense in college
Yeah.
football is like how these dudes, they're so old these days.
The COVID year throws a wrench into all of it. But back to my point here is, and I don't even remember what my point was going to be. Okay, so my rebuttal to what you were talking about with Caleb Williams and all that, right? First off, I don't know how many NFL DBs we have on our roster, because that 2018 and 2019 team, we had 4. 5 if you include Daniel Scott.
I feel like Noel's NFL good.
I think Noel has the size and stuff and talent to do it. But that's like 1 out of the 6 guys you play, right? Like, we don't know of any of them that are surefire NFL guys yet. At that point, in 2018, 2019, we knew at least 3 was surefire NFL. We didn't think we would end up with 5 of them.
True.
So that's the difference. Also, I think you're vastly underrating Michael Penix or Caleb Williams, because they are vastly better than any of the quarterbacks that the Pac-12 was having run out there in those 2018-2019 seasons. I mean, Bo Nix also included on that list too.
Okay. But like, wasn't Gardner Minshew at Washington State?
Yeah, but you're saying that Gardner Minshew is on the same level of Caleb Williams and Michael Penix?
I'm saying Gardner Minshew was pretty elite like in college, and he's been fine in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, he's probably not Caleb Williams' number 1 overall pick. I don't know about Michael Penix draft stock.
He's a first-round quarterback.
You think he's a first rounder?
He's a first-round quarterback.
So yeah, I mean,
This is the first year where legitimately the Pac-12 is playing with 3, maybe even 4 first or second round quarterbacks in the conference.
you think Bo Nix is first round?
I think Bo Nix is first round.
Holy smokes!
I mean, it's 30 picks, right? I'm not saying he might not be like a top 15 pick, but
Who else?
I mean, Penix, Williams, Nix, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like blanking on names. DJ, no. Maybe Cam Ward. Like later, I'm probably not second round, but yeah, okay, 3 surefire. Maybe you get some later, but yeah, you're playing with NFL like QBs. And that's not to say some of these other quarterbacks that we play or don't play make it to the league at some point, like Jaden Rashada or Dante Moore. Guys like
I was
that.
curious who Washington had in 2018, 2019. It was Jacob Eason
Yep.
and then Jake Browning.
Yeah.
Both NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, but wasn't collegiate quarterbacks to the level of what any of the 3 guys we have right now, or the 3
They're
guys
not.
we just named. They're not.
They're not. But Oregon, Justin Herbert.
Yep, that's probably a good comp. Yep, I can agree with that. But that's
All
about
right.
it, right? And we got crushed by those Oregon teams outside of Herbert's first year.
No way. Crushed?
Offensively?
I didn't think so because, like,
I mean, we
thought
beat.
we
we
every
beat him.
single Oregon game feels like we were in it the last few years.
I mean, yeah. I mean, are we counting 2020? That's like that's the big debate,
Sure.
right? Do you count that 2020 game? Like
Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
2018, 2019?
2020 we won, 21-17.
Yeah, that was the
2021 we lost,
ISFA.
17-24.
Yep.
22 we lost, we got whooped. I was at that. I remember that.
Yeah, that's Dan Lanning's first year.
2019 was 17-7.
That was Chris. No, that wasn't Cristobal's. Was that Cristobal's first year?
It's definitely Herbert though, right?
2019?
Yeah,
Isn't that still Herbert?
thought so. And then 2017 was 45-24. That was Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, that was
Or-
the overtime game, right? With the the Jordan Canasius interception to see.
No, that was 2016.
That was 2016.
2019, yeah. 17-7.
Oh, I remember this Oregon game in when was this? 2019. This was the Friday night game.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Oh no, this is Saturday night.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that game. That's
Yeah.
but that's the perfect game. That game, all the Oregon fans came into that game being like, "We're gonna smack you guys." And I was like, "Nah, you haven't seen our defense play yet." And I remember that whole first half so vividly, where all the Oregon fans are turning to each other saying, "What's going on here?" And I was like, "Oh, y'all haven't played a real defense so far this season. It's nice to know that you are now."
Oh
That's-
god, yeah, that's the Devin Monster game.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So once
But-
again, that goes to my point that we don't have a quarterback to play.
Yeah, you're 1,000% correct. All I'm saying though is like we had this ability to force teams out from what they were comfortable or what they were trying to execute, and I just haven't seen us do it anymore. And I don't know if the league's gotten that much better where I'm just like, oh yeah, like just, everyone. I mean,
I think it's both. I think our defense has taken a steep nosedive, and I think a lot of Pac-12 offenses has taken a steep incline.
increase, yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing.
Questions.
Yeah.
Question time.
Question time. Let me pull it up real quick. To the Twitters we go. Guess what, Andy? On our Twitter handle, our Twitter handle at Golden Bearcast, we are 10 followers away from hitting 1K.
Oh wow.
We're at 990 followers.
Sick.
How wild is that?
Please don't stop following us.
Yeah, we only need 10 more to hit 1,000, and we've only started this Twitter handle in 2019. That's not bad considering it's like a niche Twitter handle.
We are on the up and up.
We are very niche, but we got 4 questions for you today, Andy. Shall we begin?
Fire away.
Fire away. All right, first one from Golf Grouch. Can you please update us on Brett Johnson? I was hoping he could return to full health after missing the past 2 seasons.
I just don't think Brett Johnson's going to be the same player. Hate to say it, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's just he's gotten through too much.
look,
Is what it is.
if he turned his ankle and then turned his other ankle, and that's it was just elongated, and that's kind of what happened. Sure, I'd be a little bit disappointed in what's happening right now, but the dude, he's still walking and playing football despite those lower body injuries, right? It's wild to me. And yet, if you watch the game and you watch the defensive line, it's just that he's okay. First of all, it feels like he's lost half a step in terms of his speed, and who could blame him after those injuries? Secondly, he's not getting the stats, but if you watch him on every down that he's playing first, and he was on a snap count earlier in the season, but if you watch him right now, the amount of double teams he's eating is insane. And if he's eating double teams, that's his job. His job is done. If he's holding 2 offensive linemen, because the other guy's on the edge or whoever's standing to his right or on the outside is going to get that one-on-one opportunity. That's the thing that Andy and I have been talking about this entire podcast, is that's what we're missing, is that one guy on the outside because Brett Johnson is commanding that much attention, they should be able to beat those one-on-ones to get pressure, but we're just not.
We need an Alden Smith,
Yeah.
but without all the baggage.
We need an Alden Smith to our Justin Smith.
Yeah.
We have our
Exactly.
Justin Smith. We don't have an Alden Smith.
Which is bananas.
Yeah.
Like that to all the people that are not on the Wilcox train, I'm 1,000% aligned that is a damning piece of this.
Yeah.
That we've had so much time to just
Yep.
get somebody that can do that.
Yep.
Just one person.
Yep.
And we haven't been able to do it.
Nope.
Like, it's mind-blowing.
Mind blowing. All right. Next one. IRV Garcia says or asks us, will Sergio Allen get a look at replacing Sturman? What do you think?
I mean, I thought he was out last game.
He was out. I think he was a scratch last week, but who knows
Yeah.
if he's healthy. If he's healthy, who do you expect to replace Sherman?
I don't know. What about you?
Probably Blake. I'm just looking at like the roster depth chart from last week. I'm like, it's probably Blake. Looking at linebackers at who played. Yeah, it's Blake Anzalatos, and
Where did Cade play?
Cade played at linebacker as well. Cade's like inside, outside. So, yeah. They're really high on Cade. I know that. But he is a true freshman. So, I don't know how much you throw him into that starting role. I think he is part of the rotation at that linebacker spot now, but I think 65, 70% of the time, it's probably going to be Anzalatos. But yeah, I mean, the defense now has to be formulated around Caleb Elarmzor.
Yep.
He is going to be the vortex on that defense.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we got last one here from N on Twitter. What do you think are the causes of our downgrade in our defense?
I
You're listening
truly
this
hope.
far.
Yeah, truly hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. Lord knows, said it
Yeah.
as many theories as possible, but no idea.
Do you think this is something new, or has the defense been getting worse for a while? Wow, this is exactly what we talked about for the last 30, 40 minutes. How wild is that?
That's good. I appreciate the question. It was spot on. That's exactly what I was wondering.
Well, that's it, Andy. But before we wrap up, there was a basketball event that happened on Thursday, which just is it wasn't just basketball. It was like the start of like spring winter sports. So they had the women's gymnastics team, they had the women's basketball team, and the men's basketball team. But are you excited for the start of men's basketball in just over a week and a half? That's wild to me. Basketball season's in a week and a half.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, the NBA.
But yeah,
starts
I
next
saw
week,
that
too.
like NBA's kicking off this
next
weekend.
week. Yeah.
That's shocking. Wait, so Rob, can you just tell us like what was the event like?
You
Are you
know-
buying the hype? How many games are you going to go to?
Well, I'm gonna be at every single home game just because, and probably the Stanford one in Palo Alto, just because I want to film and take pictures and stuff. But
Okay.
well, basically what the event was is if you follow college basketball, a lot of the blue bloods do this, and we did this the Ivan and Jalen year, where it's like they call it. But I mean, the more traditional term for it is like Midnight Madness, where you do like a basketball pep rally around the team. You know, you do like, a dunk show, maybe a 3-point contest, things like that. And that's basically what they did at Haas. They had the lights off. There was like, some blue and gold lights and stage lights, and they had a stage, and they introduced the women's gymnastics team. They introduced the women's basketball team. They introduced the men's basketball team. Women's gymnastics did they had half of the court set up with like the gymnastics, like beam and vault, and they were just doing some activity, or not activities, like some moves off of it and showcasing. And then they had the women's basketball team, and the men's basketball team do a 3-point shootout in which Kerry Martin won with I think 12 made threes in 30 seconds. And then I can't remember how many the men's had. And then there was just there was a lot of nothing happening. They had two students shoot basically half court shots for a chance at a year's worth of tuition. That didn't go so well. One girl, I think, tossed it from half court, and I don't think it sailed more than 3 feet before hitting the ground.
More than 3 feet?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I felt really bad.
Did they give her a second chance?
They didn't.
What?
Yeah.
Was it bad enough where they're like, it doesn't matter, second chance is not going to be any better?
Maybe. But yeah, it wasn't that. And then there was this big lull, and then they were playing music, and the basketball players were just on the court, and with the gymnastics team, and they were just shooting half court shots just for the hell of it. And then they had Stunna Man perform 3 songs, and no one was really into it. It was very awkward, and then the event just kind of ended. I was like, are they not going to do a dunk contest maybe, or do some maybe 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 with the women's and men's basketball team?
Don't tell me this, Rob.
And it just kind of ended.
Ay.
So and all my pictures are dark because they did not turn on any of the lights inside.
I noticed that. It
was so dark, and I don't have an f2.8 to get enough lights. It's it's grainy, it's dark. All my footage is gonna look pictures look like I took it with a film, a disposable Fuji camera. But yeah, that's kind of how it ended. But in terms of the hype around the men's basketball team, it's great. I think everyone's still waiting on Jalen Tyson's waiver. I think the news came out that they sent in the waiver request a couple weeks ago, so they're just waiting on that. But they've been fun. They're fun to follow on Twitter and Instagram just to see what they're doing on the court. Hopefully, in terms of Right for California stuff, we're trying to set up maybe some interviews and other things to build a little bit of that hype a little bit. But the roster's there. I think this team isn't a 10th in the conference team. I don't know how far up they go because the conference is pretty good at basketball. But yeah, the talent turnaround has been I can't think of another word other than miraculous.
Is Devin still on the team?
Devin is still on the team. I would say Devin is probably the starting point guard of this roster. I'm very interested in how Devin is used because his big thing coming out of high school and his first few years in college was he is a facilitating point guard. He's very good with his handles. He's very good at setting guys up and running an offense. He couldn't score, which we saw last year, but that shouldn't be his first decision. So being on a team where he's the point guard and can command guys, use motion, get guys open, and use his passing ability a lot more than his scoring is going to be very interesting to see how that transition works. And I was talking to Don at the event, and the biggest thing I think for me and him is how much can this coaching staff remove the bad habits and mentality installation. How much can they remove that from the guys that have stayed on this roster from last season into going into this new offense and new team? Because the offense from this team, just judging from the Instagram videos and stuff, is modern motion basketball. You're going to see centers taking threes. You're going to see a lot of pick and roll action. You're going to see high lows. You're going to see picks, handoffs, and then dump downs. You're going to see high post screen and rolls that lead to, a guy maybe running baseline from the dunker spot. You're going to see modern basketball, and that's clear as day. It's just a matter of can the guys execute? And do we have the skill position players to be able to execute? And I think Jalen Tyson is that guy that we need his waiver to clear, because he is clearly, in my opinion, the most talented player we have on this roster, and he looks the part. Like, he looks the part of a professional basketball player. Size, handles, just Don describes it best as he just looks like a smooth basketball player. Like, everything comes naturally to him, and that's what it looks like. Nothing looks unnatural.
Cool. Almost like my guy Patrick Christopher back in the day.
Very much so. Very much so. I miss PC. Those were the days.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start to bring guys back into the fold, particularly the alumni. It's a weird year. I threw out this idea. It's a weird year, but just because it's the last year of the Pac-12, it would be nice to kind of honor or bring back the guys from that last Pac-10, Pac-12 championship winning team, which was, I think, 2010 was the last year we won it. Or was it, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2010. That would be fun. But yeah, basketball's right on the corner. They play not St. Peter's. Oh, I'm getting this wrong. I was talking to Don about this too, and St. Peter's is a team that made the NCAA tournament and went on a run. They're playing St. Thomas of Minnesota, 6 p.m. Hoss Pavilion, November 6th. So I was actually wrong. It's exactly 2 weeks away. Not less than 2 weeks. I'm excited.
Rob, did we ever confirm the $100 million practice facility?
Well, I don't think we ever confirmed it. I think it's still in the works. Yeah, that's all I know about it. It's like it's still being discussed. But look, everything I've heard coming out of that building, like not the facility that's about to be built, but just Hoss Pavilion, is like Madsen is like just a go-getter. Like, he's getting stuff done. Recruiting wise, with the donors, with the basketball alumni, with the fans. He's just trying to get everything done. Like the apt description that I received was that this coaching staff moves at 100 miles an hour.
Wow. Love it.
So,
I mean, he's the one who was bold enough to say that we're going to win 20 games this year and take a shot at winning the Pac-12.
yeah, he said it's all about championships. It's you know what it reminded me of? Remember when we were talking about Konzo back in the day, and how you always loved when Konzo would be like, yeah, we're like, the goal is never just like the tournament or like, you know, a certain win-loss. It's like, it's about winning national championships. Remember how you loved that about Konzo?
Yeah.
Madsen's kind of the same way. He was talking about championships. Oh, and the best part I think about that event is he actually said Hoss of Pain. It's like a Twitter thing that people have been trying to make happen, because Keontae Kennedy said it in a Twitter video from Cal men's basketball a couple of weeks ago, where he said like, this is gonna be the Hoss of Pain, and Madsen said that on stage. So all of us are taking that as the official word of, yeah, that's what this era of basketball is gonna be called the Hoss of Pain.
Sick. We're ending on that.
Dude, someone made a graphic of this on Twitter, and it says Mad Dog's Hoss of Pain. Sick. How awesome is that? I need that shirt.
Sick.
I absolutely need that shirt.
The hype is real.
The hype is real. So we'll see you Monday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at Hoss Pavilion. That's the selling point. But yeah, that's it. You got any closing thoughts, Andy? You ready for SC?
Take us home.
You ready for SC week?
Dude, I am so ready for SC week. I am hopefully going to have to play tennis that morning. But
I don't know how you're going to play tennis that morning when it's a noon kickoff.
I know. It's a not dude, trust me. That's what I was saying. I was like, I wasn't lying. I was like, my head's already working on logistics. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm hoping it's going to be Eva's first Cal football game.
Oh, I'm going to miss it? Oh, my God.
That's your fault for having a friend who has had wedding in the middle of football season.
Damn it.
But yeah, it's going to be great. Last time ever. Might as well storm the field. Definitely storm the field if we win.
Win or loss.
With Eva. The baby's coming with me.
Please don't jump the wall. Walk down the stairs, please. Please walk down the stairs.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Please
It's way
walk down.
too big of a leap.
That's a long ass fall.
Way too big of a leap.
Yeah. All right. That wraps it up for us here on the California Golden Bearcast. As usual, you can find us on Twitter. Get us 10 more follows, people. Let's get us to 1K, please. And if you are listening to us, you know where to find us. And all our written stuff is over at rightforcalifornia.com. And Andy, what do we say as always?
Go Bears.
Go Bears.